This episode is brought to you by Wallet Win Financial Coaching.
Money problems are one of the leading causes of tension in relationships and even divorces. But there's good news. It is rarely about the money itself. So, how do you find out if your marriage needs a financial overhaul or a counseling session? Find out in today's episode of the Catholic Money Show. If I had $1 for every time somebody asked me, do we just need budget coaching or do we need counseling? I might be retired by now. This is a very common and frequently asked question for very good reason. Because money is such a sensitive topic, it can touch so many intricate parts of our life and our marriages, and it's interwoven with almost everything. And if you pull on one thread over here, you can feel it oftentimes over here. And sometimes it's tricky to figure out what is the root cause of this argument we're having right now. It's about money, but is it really about money? Is it? Because sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. You got to go deeper. You got to find where it really is stemming from, and it may have nothing to do with finances. That's the tricky part about when these financial arguments, tensions, and frustrations rear their heads. And so in this episode, we want to help you to figure out what you need to do to actually identify the real problem, and then figure out, is a financial overhaul or actual counseling going to be what we need to support and figure out those situations so we can navigate those as a couple and actually grow through them, not be driven apart.
Yes. And sometimes the answer might be a little bit of both.
Yeah.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B to get what you need. So first off, just what is going on? What's the problem? What's the issue? What's going on right now? Maybe, these disagreements, is it about the spending and how that's causing financial problems? Or is it like the spending that's showing in the pick at the scab of the relationship, and there's lack of trust or control oozing out underneath? So this could be, one of you goes and makes a large, unexpected, not talked about purchase. And now, because of that purchase, maybe we just have to do some rearranging in the budget. We're mostly okay, but boy, I really didn't like that you did that without talking to me first. Or is it, we have to do a little bit of rearranging, and I don't know how this is going to work out because we need to pay the mortgage and there's no money because you spent that thing. So I don't know if we can rearrange. All right, one is about money, one is about trust. And both are tricky, both are hard, but kind of what's the main problem that's being brought up there?
It's important to go through this because we need to identify what the real problem is, so actually get to a solution. So something else that you can consider when these tensions rear their ugly heads is reflect on your reactions. Is this frustration about money and just kind of the brass tacks of the management of it and how we're not on the same page with it? Or is this frustration about money tied to fear or insecurity or unmet needs? Because those things can be happening as well. In our own marriage, when I was thinking about this, early money arguments that we had as engaged couple and newlyweds, they were legitimately just about financial concerns. We didn't even know there was another layer in some way. What money was being spent on, how it could be spent differently to benefit our family more, etc. Those were the fights we were having early. It was about money, how it was being handled. Why would you ever handle it like that? Why would you think spending it on this is a good idea when it would be a much better idea over here? Those were some of the arguments that we had early on. But as we ended up getting on the same page pretty early in our relationship when it came to the actual management of money. So now when we have arguments about personal finances or money per se, it's never about money anymore. It's only about the things that are underneath. Like the iceberg, you see the iceberg illustration, you see the little tip above. and then all this other stuff way underneath. It's always about those things now. Money is just the little flag waving on top of the mountain, calling our attention down to these other things like fear of insecurity, panic, or being really tired, or feeling like things are too heavy over here and somebody's not taking their load, etc. Things, those are the things that now are the real arguments that sometimes money gets to replace
Yes.
for us. But it's important to know. And especially as entrepreneurship has kind of come into our life, um, it's brought in an even added layer of stress around money sometimes, especially early on in entrepreneurship and starting our business. We don't always need a budget conversation, but we do need to talk about how we're going to both handle the emotion of financial insecurity or the lack of predictability of when you're going to earn money or risk. So it's added extra things beyond kind of the norm of our life.
Yes.
And it's just good to know, where are these things coming from? So we're not going to treat something that's not, we're not going to diagnose, we're going to diagnose the right thing and treat the right thing instead of diagnosing the incorrect and treating the wrong thing.
Yes. Another thing to consider as you're kind of stepping back and seeing what's going on with your finances in your relationship would be financial surprises or financial secrets. The financial costs of addictions that have come to light, some financial lies that may have been told. Or, I didn't tell you about that big expense, or I didn't tell you when I broke that thing, or when I lost this other one, or whatever it is. And, okay, it kind of comes, hey, honey, I noticed, I was looking at the numbers, and it looks like there's $2,000 less dollars than should be in there. Do you know what's going on? Now it's coming out that I had to replace this or that, and that certainly has some financial implications, but I think probably some really big trust implications. And it's going to hurt the relationship, possibly, probably more than it hurts your financial situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are some questions to just help you assess kind of what is going on and where might the root problem actually lie. And then let's boil down to, okay, we've got a couple paths here: a financial overhaul, counseling session, or both. What do we actually need? So signs that it's a financial overhaul, this is the path that you need to take. So are you constantly in debt and you just can't seem to make progress? You can't seem to get out. It always feels like you're on a hamster wheel. It's never seeming to go down. You're never seeming to make progress against it. Is that happening in your relationship? Or are you creating a budget and then you can never, both of you or one of you, you just can't stick to a shared budget? One of you is maybe making the budget and living by it, but then the other spouse is not, and just can't seem to get going with a shared budget. Maybe you try it for a month or two and then it just kind of peters off and blows up, and it's now a forgotten memory that you feel guilty that you haven't resurrected and kind of kept with. Is that happening? Another sign would be neither of you fully understand your financial picture. Sometimes, we've met with couples in financial coaching sessions, and I'm coming in very concerned about their financial picture because I'm looking at it and I see a very intense situation. And they're both chill and like, oh yeah, we're doing okay. That is my moment to realize they have no idea. They do not understand the gravity of the situation that they are in. They don't get this. They do not understand that they're steps away from having everything fall apart here, and that action is now critical. They're not seeing, if neither one of you are fully understanding your financial picture, both the highlights, but also the kind of the downfalls, that's a sign that you need a financial overhaul. Another sign would be just that there's a pretty tangible fix or a solution. Like, hey, if we just implemented a budgeting app, if we just enrolled in Catholic Money Academy or read the Texera's book about personal finances, or we booked a financial coaching session with them, and then took action on these things, most of these things that we are frustrated about would be solved and figured out because we just implemented what we learned. Those are signs of a financial overhaul is what would actually be the solution for you. But it's not always that easy.
Yes.
Sometimes there are signs that you need a counseling session.
Yes. This is going to probably be the case when money feels like, or maybe because it is, being used as a weapon in your arguments. You're always spending all the time, or you never let me get what I want. Whatever, the money is a symptom of something else, the evidence that I'm going to use against you for that other thing that really hurts. I think it could also be a lack of transparency or trust. A little bit of what was mentioned earlier, these hidden accounts, the secret spending, of course, the shame that goes along with it, or maybe the anger when it's discovered, the betrayal, all of that. And then, right, these financial discussions, even if it's not going to be an argument, it's not, where is this money? Or why did you spend that much on this? It's just, we're going to sit down and make the budget. We're going to talk about groceries. We are looking ahead and planning a vacation and where we want to go and how much it might cost. Like really innocuous financial discussions, let alone any more higher stakes ones, escalate into bigger fights.
Yeah.
So the topic of money comes up and then it just gets real touchy. It gets really spiky in the conversation. That is a sign that it's not the money. The money is there, right? There's something there about money, but there's other things that money is pulling on that it's connected to, and those need some help as well. So, right, it's money when the disagreement or whatever it is the money. The frustration is the money. The counseling comes in when the frustrations or fights or whatever it is about the money, or peeling open, pulling open different things and revealing bigger, maybe deeper hurts and wounds. This is a perfect time to just stop for a minute and tell you about our one-on-one financial coaching services. That's right. You can head on over to our website and grab a time to meet with me or Amanda to go over your situation one-on-one, to ask all your questions, to get all of the insights, to make your plan to move forward. So whether you are just getting started, you're having trouble making that budget work, or you are thinking about, should we have a career change? Are we ready to have another baby? Should we move? I'm getting married. What's going on? How do we do this thing of pushing our finances together? Whatever it is, if there's a financial question, hey, let's dive into it. So we can talk about kind of your general big picture or go right into the nitty gritty on a specific topic. So whatever it might be, I would love to help you navigate that and really discern the right path forward. To learn more, you can go to walletwin.com/coaching and sign up now. That's walletwin.com/coaching. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah. And you might, we just kind of listed off some of the, if you're feeling this way, a financial overhaul, if you're feeling this way, a counseling session. And some of you might be listening to this thinking, gosh, they really both do accurately describe where we're at. And that's where we recommend couples. I've coached many couples where I'm going to help them figure out the financial overhaul, but part of their homework is to get into a counseling session because they have gone sometimes decades limping along, having blow up conversations about money that are never really about money. And they're about really significant deep wounds and hurts that they've both inflicted on each other through the years. Or there's some toxic things happening, like one spouse giving the other an allowance and things like that. That's not a real money management strategy. That's a control strategy that is not good. And that's something that can be solved in a counseling session. So sometimes really you do need to approach it from the two-pronged approach of both the practicals, but also the counseling for some of that emotional support and some of that healing that's going to be going on. Now, let's get practical at the end here. and discuss what are some of those actions that you can take for just better financial and emotional health.
Mm.
Some of these money and financial arguments that happen, how might we mitigate some of them before they even escalate?
Yeah. And something that's really neat here is in the same way that, or the same kind of mechanics or whatever that are involved in a money conversation can turn into so much more. Working on healthy practicals of money and finding a way for us to work together on it can also trickle back down in. And now,
Totally.
oh, we just had this really great conversation about money and we identified a dream or a goal or whatever it was. Also, maybe like I can trust them a little bit more, or we can work as a team, whatever it might be. So it certainly you should work on the other things directly, but in the same way the money can pull it up, it can also help heal it a bit too.
Got it.
So say a shared goal conversation, right? We're not even gonna get to a budget yet. We're not gonna get into all the nitty gritty financial details, but what do you want things to look like? What goals do you want to have, achieved or checked off in the next 5 to 10 years? What does that look like? And that's a way we're talking about money, but we're talking about our desires, our wants, and we can start to see each other a little bit better instead of just, zeroed in on that purchase they made or whatever it is.
Yeah, you're oftentimes, when you have dreams do the heavy lifting and actually get you on the same page, it's a much faster process than trying to sit down and force the same page to happen. If
Mhm.
you come up with that shared goal that is so crystal clear that both of you naturally want to align your financial habits to allow this thing to come to fruition, that is so much easier than barking at each other and criticizing one another over their, financial whatevers.
Mm.
Allow those shared dreams and goals to do the heavy lifting for you. That's always where we encourage people to start. Because when you do have those, a lot of times it's going to unite you, give you something to look forward to, give you something exciting to consider together and to start growing back together. Of course, there could also be potential landmines around that as well if there have been failures or letdowns in the past. But at least you're moving in the right direction of kind of identifying some of those things that you could actually do together. The budget meeting to make these things practically happen, that's later. That's a later discussion. But this is that first step to really starting to have a common goal. Because couples that don't have that common shared goal, a lot of times they just start drifting in different directions, even with their finances, of course, with their emotions. And then they start to just feel like, what are we even doing together? Do we even have a shared life? The things that I'm interested in now, you're not interested in. Why are we even married? It can be what those conversations end up leading to. It's really important that as married couples, we have our own identities, of course, but we always have to have something that is drawing us together, pulling us together, and that unified vision for the future is really helpful.
Mhm.
All right, next, create a financial plan together when you do actually sit down to have that budget meeting. It needs to be representative of both your personalities. Oftentimes in a relationship, you are going to have that saver and that spender. Now, sometimes there's going to be double savers and sometimes there's going to be double spenders. For the most part, I have found, call it just the desire for human balance. We tend to be attracted to people that are complementary to ourselves. There most often tends to be that saver and that spender. When they sit down to create a budget, it can be a scenario for fireworks.
Mhm.
And I remember early on in our relationship, because I'm more of the saver, you're more of the spender, we had a little bit of conflict over these types of things, but we had to compromise. And so while we, on some of those fun categories where we could spend or get new things or get some technology or whatever, we decided to get used or we spent less so we could go after the goals we had. I also needed to compromise and not just have every dollar be this workhorse that plowed us like a Clydesdale towards our goals. I needed to be okay getting to that goal 2 to 3 months slower so we could actually have a little bit of life, go on some dates, buy a couple nice things, that added to the value of our life.
Mhm.
And so these compromises are going to be really helpful.
And not only is it going to make the financial side of things easier, but by seeing who the other person is and now adjusting the plan, changing how I want to do things, if it was just up to me, helps one, you grow in love for the other and the person feel love. Oh, wow, they actually see this part of me. They're making a couple changes here, and we are coming together to work on this as a team, as a couple. That's huge. It can be pretty healing, even if it might seem like a small thing at the time. Also, want you to go on money dates. So, right, this is non-judgmental. It's a time to review finances, talk about maybe some of the little bumps in the road, the hurdles, talk about the wins, of course, that you've gone through recently. And it's just it's a time to sit down. We're just going to talk about some money. We're saying it out loud right now. This is what we're going to talk about for a bit. Remember, not going to be time to say that was a stupid thing you did or whatever. We're just gonna talk about it. This is our little box of time that we have cornered off to talk about money because we know it is going to touch all sorts of parts of our life, and we want to talk about it though. We want to see what's going on, talk about our plans a little bit. Are we on track? Do we need to kind of tweak things over a little bit? And how do we want to move forward?
Bada bing, bada boom. I think lastly, if I had anything else to add to this, it would just be that, if the emotional patterns are hurting the conversation that you end up having on
Mm.
something like a money date, sometimes that's just the time to say, okay, we're going to pause this conversation and we are going to set up marriage counseling. Or there's even nowadays financial therapists who are trained counselors, but they specialize particularly in financial conversations and money management and money dynamics. And that's an interesting niche to me. I can't believe that exists now, but it does. So sometimes you can decide, okay, we're going to put a pin in this and we're actually going to have this conversation. But we're going to do it under the guidance of and the accompaniment of a counselor or a financial therapist. And we like to make these conversations even easier for people.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have a resource that we want to share with you. And it's perfect for that money date. And we do prefer people have this in a public place because aren't we all on our best behavior when other people are watching? It might save things from getting a little too escalated. But this is really something that comes from the own work that we had to do in our early marriage of getting on the same page, the conversations we had to discuss, the things we had to do to actually foster financial unity.
4 money mistakes that leave couples strained and drained, and how to fix them without fighting.
There we go. There we
I'm gonna
go.
say the title without breathing.
Whew. So if you want to try money date with your spouse, download our free money conversation starter guide that we just shared with you.
Yep, that's
And
at walletwin.com/4mistakes.
there we go. And it's going to help you have the conversations about your past, about your future, and about how you can actually start working on getting on the same page today.
If you loved that little guy, do that. Maybe you want to keep going and check out our Money Together workshop. Really helps you get on the same page with your finances by examining the past, looking towards the future, and then creating your plan to get there in the present. So that's available on our website as well, walletwin.com/moneytogether. But get started with that guide at walletwin.com/4mistakes. It's walletwin.com/4mistakes.
And as I mentioned a few times in this episode, we do financial coaching and we do it with couples. So if you know that, okay, it seems that our issues are really more about the money management side of things and less about the emotional side of things, let's set up a session. Go on over to waltwin.com/coaching and you can select the best session for you. All right. Until next time, bye for now.
This episode was brought to you by our one-on-one financial coaching services. You can learn more at walletwin.com/coaching.